I did the math, Kristen. I think this is our 500th conversation.
I was excited to hear what the actual number was. And you're like, I did the math. I'm like, what is it?
It's probably not 500, but it might as well be. I got you those flowers as a celebration for it. I hope you appreciate it.
They're pink. They're so Princess Diana.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the delivery from you, frankly, and nothing's come yet, but that's cool. All good. I'll take it. Yes, that's all I need. I'm so happy for you and for us for this film. Honestly, this is your best film. This is your best piece of work yet. And you know I'm already a fan. This is amazing stuff in Spencer. I know you can be a little self-critical, so I'm just curious, like, are you allowing some pride in the work in this one? When you see this one, are you kind of enjoying it in a different way than you've enjoyed past work?
I'm self-critical, but that's only because I'm actually so into my own process that I can't ever really take my hands off of it. But in this case, it does actually reflect something that I am proud of, top to bottom. Like, I can't with this. Like, I do think that, like, as much as it seems like a daunting experience to take on such a historically coveted figure and someone that everyone feels that they know and have a particular perception of, those perceptions are all so different that we were allowed to come to this with, like, selfish curiosity that was really desire-based, and just sort of go, well, how does she make me feel? And what do I think it must have felt like to make a decision with such gravitas, and one that was going to change the world in the way that it did. The movie became so personal to us that the noise of Princess Diana and how everyone was going to receive it just did actually float away and only come back when we figured, oh, how are people gonna talk about the movie when it comes out? I'm talking to you right now about the movie. It's going well. It reflects our experience. I would be so shocked if we released this movie or that everyone saw it and they were like, just didn't feel it. I'd be like, well, then I think I should stop being an actor. Like, I think I think maybe I'm not a human. Like, it wouldn't make sense to me.
There's also the experience of having played, like, you know, whether it's Joan Jett or Snow White or Bella Swan, like these kind of like characters or sometimes real life people that are so in the fabric of the public and pop culture that people feel like they have some ownership of. You've been through that kind of in different ways. Does that steel yourself a little bit when you come onto this? You kind of know the drill and you can navigate it.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's something that I've experienced with kind of focusing on the things that you really love and not the things that other people love. Because there's going to be some sort of congruency there, but it needs to be authentic and true to you. And so you're only kind of depriving yourself of a beautiful personal journey if you're going to focus on the way someone else is considering your path. Like, the whole thing is, I want this. I want to get as close to her as I can, not in a way that is speaking to the result of it, not like as close to the accent, but like as close to her, as close as my mind and heart and body could get to the idea of this person was like always gonna yield the best movie. And if I'm just thinking about like what my neighbor is gonna obviously that's just not good for anybody, but mainly just not good for me.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about like the lessons learned from like deciding to take something like this on, because I know you sign on to this. It's from Pablo Larrain, who's this like brilliant artist who's obviously done amazing material, and you obviously had a lot of trust and excitement about working with him. But this is arguably the most daunting character you've played. Is there a lesson learned in like trust the gut, trust the artist that you're going to collaborate with? Like, what's the takeaway that this has worked out as well as it did?
I just sort of, in a mental way, in retrospect, know that I was in based on the conversation that I had with Pablo. The way that he presented his approach being kind of getting to the parts of her that are completely human and normal and ignoring the princess aspects of it. I know from an outsider's perspective, it's probably easy to see that, like, you know, oh, you really understand this part because you get photographed by people a lot and like you also are famous. I could tell that he wanted to make a movie about a mom, about a woman who was stuck in a relationship, who felt invisible, who felt like she had lots of things to say, but no voice to speak with. Those are really relatable, really, really sort of pervasive female subjects. And as soon as I talked to him, I didn't feel like we were making a movie about Princess Diana the way everyone perceives her. It was like, who is this person? Like, in considering her life and what she gave to the world and imagining what it must have been like to be her personally, she does offer this really beautiful terrain in which to dream about the complexity of being a woman with no voice and somebody who's an undeniable power trying to be stifled by a greater institution. And that is like pretty uniquely singular to Princess Diana, but at the same time, anyone listening listening to this right now, like, if you've ever felt like you couldn't leave a relationship, if you've ever felt like the most realized part of you is actually the animal aspect, which is I'm a mom, but also who am I in regards to anything else? Like, there are so many parts of this that I just felt like were humanized by Pablo. So I was like, dude, this is obviously something fun and worthwhile and moving. And it was easy to separate the Princess Diana of it all once you actually viewed her intimately and viewed her as a human, which is all she wanted, you know?
The aspect of taking control of your own life a little bit. Like, this is a woman who found herself kind of from the external point of view in a fairy tale and realized clearly it wasn't all it was cracked up to be, and had to kind of figure out how to like take control and kind of find some semblance of happiness and ownership. When you look at your own life and career, do you feel like there was like a demarcation point of like where you took more ownership over your career?
It seems that way maybe because I did like a huge franchise as a very young person, and I was in that for a long time, and I have a tricky, pissy relationship with paparazzi. But I'm very happy that they were there because I really liked making that series. I then never navigated my career like reactionary. I wasn't going like, ooh, well, now I need to start making more serious work, or I need to start doing things that reflect the more marginal aspects of my life. I would say the only time I would try and zoom out and be a little bit more concerted would be as a filmmaker or a writer and not an actor. But as an actor, I cannot stress more how out of control I like to be in terms of choosing my path as an actor. I mean, like at a certain point, I've sort of noticed things and tried to learn lessons and preserve my experience on film sets and try and have a good time doing it and try and make the best movies that I can. And there are things that I've learned along the way, but there was never a moment where I was like, I'm gonna do me now. I have always been doing me.
Yeah. I totally understand that. One theme also that I think is going to resonate with people is that external view that other people have of all of us. Like when it seems like we have it all together, or we're happy, whether it's on Instagram or in real life, we project out to the world a certain image. And clearly Diana was going through this, given your profession, you know, doing the red carpets and doing the press. Yeah, exactly. Always thumbs up.
That is crisis, like in a body, literally like.
Right. Does that resonate with you at all? That kind of like front that we all have to put up, and especially in Diana's case, that she had to put up because of the nature of who she was.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like anybody that has a job that needs to like go out of their house every day, you know, there are ways to sort of grease the wheels of life and not make your problem everyone else's problem and not create deeper issues for yourself. I don't think that my perspective as somebody who does interviews and movies and takes a lot of pictures is like more unique. It's just what you just said. It's like we all have to put on a brave face sometimes.
Yeah.
Between her and I, it's like so easy to compare us because we take a lot of pictures and we're very famous. She took more pictures and was more famous, but I just gotta say that. But like, I'm allowed to be exactly who I am. Whether or not I keep working is, you know, another question, but like, I'm fully allowed to like tell you anything I want right now and not get in trouble. I would be like, oh, maybe that doesn't reflect how I feel, or I said something impulsively at the wrong time and now everyone's gonna have a certain opinion of me. I'm the only one that's gonna be mad at me. You know, I'm never asked to lie. I've never been asked to kind of hold up an exemplary idea of being a young woman. I mean, I guess like people have asked me questions in regards to like whether or not I think I've done a good job at setting examples. And I've always said that's not why I make art. And so, yeah, I don't have to be as afraid and as kind of straitjacketed. And I think that I've never had that moment in my life where I felt like something was lodged in my throat and I needed to sort of like Heimlich it out in order to be myself. I've just sort of been I've just kind of, you know, those things outside of party stores that go like this.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of in how me functioning in the world. And like, you know, if I was a royal princess, I would be not ideal for them, I'm sure.
Let's revel for a second in just the artsy fartsiness of this, because this is a beautiful, gorgeous, just piece of art. To sound a little pretentious for a second, it's true. The sound design, the music, the subjective way that Pablo puts us in Diana's perspective. I mean, to me, I don't know if this is going to resonate for you at all, but like when watching it, I'm like, this is like The Shining. I'm in a horror movie. This is a woman that's trapped in this ornate, beautiful estate and is being driven mad.
I know, it almost feels like you can see the miniature version of the house. And like we are like little dolls being mirrored, and she's like stuck in this toy house that doesn't exist and is not real. Yeah.
Right. So you talk about sort of feeling that kind of collaborative nature with this kind of core team putting this all together. But like, I know it's always kind of shocking to different degrees to see a finished product of a film, but is this what like Pablo talked to you about? Like when you saw the finished film, did anything shock you about how it was put together?
I think that the way that he uses space in this movie is so just paramount to the experience. There are times where my character is drowning in the immensity of this, you know, rock hard, cold stone place. And you feel the history of it all. Like she feels like this sort of like recycled character that's never going to kind of find its way out of its plight. And the space of the immensity of the space and the coldness of it like helps you remember that she's not the first one here. And you feel that in those spaces within those walls. Right. And then when you're fully embedded and with her, he's using these wide angle lenses that are 3 inches from my face, and that proximity is palpable. And what he was shooting, taking me out of it, but like the sets, the environment, the clothing, his way into seeing this person is so personal. It's jarring, it's scary, it's hard to live there actually. And
it's so intimate, like you feel like you shouldn't be watching this.
And there's like a tinnitus thing going on with the music. There's a shrieky nature to this like gorgeous free form jazz thing that feels like half her in its like, you know, thirst, and then half royal in its strange kind of like shrill stringy thing. It's like the strings have all been like ripped off the violin. That's what the movie sounds like. And like it won't stop replaying, and the tempo like rises and falls and with no logic. And this is what happens when you work with a really good director. He has the capacity in the room in his head to take many different seemingly disparate impulses, find the ones that go together, let the best ideas rise to the top. He's just so tireless. He will constantly search for the best thing and for the thing that's the truest. And a lot of times working with people who are telling a complicated story, you feel like you don't want to add anything to the pile because you don't want to take a card out of the house of cards and like ruin the mansion. Like you're like, okay, I'll leave him alone on this. I could literally assault him with anything. Go, oh, what about this? Oh my God, and then what if I ran over here? Suddenly there would already be a camera in front of me. Like he was always going to maintain what he was doing. He was so good at fielding the ball and kind of distilling everyone's impulses and desires into one movie. And that's an auteur. To me, that's just like, they're not normal. They're really rare.
Last time we caught up, we were talking Happiest Season, a much different kind of a movie, but a movie that obviously meant a lot to a lot of people simply because of, I mean, it was an entertaining film, but it was also a great moment of representation in a very kind of tried and true formula for a like Hollywood movie. Talk to me about where you're at now. My sense is that it's excitement, that it's optimism about telling new stories, telling the stories that we haven't seen, especially for women. Talk to me about like what you're stoked to bring out into the world right now. What kinds of stories are you just excited to share, and what's on the horizon?
Me personally, I crave coming of age stories for young women who, you know, have a messy interaction with finding themselves. And I think female sexuality just makes everyone so uncomfortable, and that's totally fine. Let's like fully lean into that and try and dissipate some of that for people. Yeah, so that we've talked about it a million times, but I've been lucky enough to get as close as I possibly can to one of my favorite pieces of writing I've ever read called The Chronology of Water. It's taken a long time to find itself, and I'm so glad that it did because I'm in a perfect place to really knock this one down. We're casting it. I'm going to make a movie soon. Nice. In general, I was just doing an interview about like all of the period kind of overwrought lesbian dramas that are just running rampant. I've done one.
The hot new genre.
Yeah. I mean, it is. And it's also something that I was like, oh, it's going to be a moment in time that we look back on and go like, oh, remember we did all those. We need more. Like they're not always the best ones, but like we've just seen so many clumsy, cute, honest attempts at telling love stories and certain coming of age stories. They're just all the same ones, you know? We just like, I can't wait for queer, lesbian, trans, like, you know, asexual, just certain stories to be like, no, but what's your version? And now we're finally in a place that we're open to other versions. We've just really watched the same movie over and over for like 100 years. So it is an exciting time to consider perspective.
What's the Stephen Yun collaboration? This sounds like another off-kilter kind of thing. Who's directing this, or what can you tease me about working with Stephen, who we're all big fans of?
Love Me is a script that I read a long time ago, actually, and kind of found its feet over the last year or so. And I'm very happy that we found like a window to shoot it. I've never met Stephen. I signed on to this movie a long time ago because it is such an innovative and revolutionary script. It's very digital because it has to be, not because we're trying to emulate life, but because it's a story about the internet. It's literally a love story between a satellite and a buoy. So it's kind of an exchange of information. It's kind of like digressing on all of humanity, everything we left behind, sort of like an attention-seeking, desperately wanting to be loved group of people, which humans are. It's very weird. And I need to work on it before I can really like articulate exactly what it's about, but it's beautiful. I'm very attracted to it. I can't wait to figure out like why I find it so beautiful. But until then, I will say ambiguous, strange things about it.
I love it. I'm sold. You know me. I'm sold. Well, I think a lot of awards are coming your way this season, just being honest. And I think back to your win at the 2009 MTV Movie Awards. And all I'm saying is, I don't want you to drop another award. Don't do it. Just two hands, just hold on.
No, over the shoulder.
Just casually, just kind of.
Dude, that thing is so top heavy. I've picked them up since and been like, this is begging to fall on the ground. Like,
right. Hopefully the Oscars are more of a well-balanced award.
Well, it's funny. When I won my César, it's really like so embarrassing to bring this up, but the only way to tell this story is to say that I put the thing down, like on the pedestal or possibly the floor or something. And I remember my friends being like, what were you doing? Like, even the person that gave it to you was like, what are you doing? I was like, you don't understand. I couldn't have that moment again.
No, you don't want to be that person. Once is enough.
I was like, thank you.